The Lower Burg is the next stop for my Dark Souls rambling. The way you get access to it is a bit obtuse, but I think most people will know where to use the basement key when you get it. I remember on my first playthrough I had no idea you could slide down ladders, so we are going to take in this climb. A ladder is a vertical or inclined set of rungs or steps used for climbing or descending. There are two types of rigid ladders that are self-supporting, or that may be leaned against a vertical surface such as a wall, and rollable ladders, such as those made of rope. I find this single torch in the entrance room to the Lower Burg to be very cozy for some reason. It just seems like a really chill spot. I think the ambience of Souls games does a great job at making this world feel so varied. Each area has its own ambient sounds, and most players are bound to find a spot that is comforting to them. Before we go exploring the slums, we can get this neat shortcut back to the coziest bonfire in Dark Souls, because we will definitely need it. Again, Dark Souls does one of my favorite things and shows us a pathway out of bounds. These little pathways have me wondering what conditions are like in the even lower burgs. I remember on my first playthrough I thought it was going to lead to the DLC for some reason. You can even go to the gate that leads to this path, but it's blocked off by these wooden planks. If this town had to block off the road, what terrible places is it connected to? The Lower Burg is a pretty barren place save for these disgusting dogs. After years of inbreeding done by professional dog breeders, the undead attack dog is the end result. These ratty bastards will screw you over if you don't have enough poise. I think these dogs strike a decent balance with their annoyance because their health bars are pretty manageable, but they can definitely be a bit of a barrier for players, especially because they are so different from all the other enemies we've faced so far, with us primarily fighting humanoids. The bleed damage is also a bit ridiculous, since most players will likely not have armor good against bleed, or a high health bar. There are no residents in sight, and it doesn't take much to notice what is fueling this massive fire. There isn't a clear reason why these people were burned. The residents could be under some sort of strict ruler, or maybe they thought the fire could put them out of their misery from the undead curse. Reading environments is key to playing Dark Souls, so this world building comes naturally to the game design, and maybe sometimes the questions we pose are better left unanswered.
Somebody! Please let me out of here. Somebody, anybody, help me. Unlock the door. Damn, I'm finished. How did this ever happen?
Now I'll open the door. Using the key we bought earlier, we can open this door. This is Griggs, the wizard who doesn't understand doors.
Brilliant. You opened the door for me. Thank you. I'm safe.
He seems like a nice guy, and he's been chilling with this barrel boy who's carrying an identical fit. Griggs sells a funny spell, so we will see him a little later. Going down this alleyway, we can join the corpse pile. Then going back to this alleyway, we can peep the void. There's nothing in the void, but the idea of something being there is kind of creepy and a little bit of foreshadowing for areas to come. This area works similarly to those out-of-bounds spots that I love so much. It's a very simplistic spot that is pretty insignificant, but its existence is good enough to me. Continuing on the main path, we can get a better understanding of why the Lower Undead Burg is the way it is. Killing these blokes is pretty easy when all they have is a butter knife at their disposal. Going inside their housing and looking around at the interior reveals how this whole town went insane. The pathway becomes more natural and we see some pit bulls frolicking in the grass, and some thieves try to do the ambush trick on us again. If you are in any way using this video as a guide for some reason, do not enter the fog wall. Do not do it. Ever. Stop playing this game. Going down the stairs, we can explore some more before the boss. I want to take a moment to acknowledge a little bit of why I love the way online is integrated into this game. These messages are not only great at creating this sense of community and solidarity, but it also provides an interesting avenue for players to help one another through slightly less direct methods. It all ties well into the game's themes of humanity and the importance of remaining connected to it, even when you know there are risks. Anyway, look at this Phoenix resident exercising his right to openly carry. This tower takes us into a familiar sewage area, and we get to meet the Moss Plug. This lady understands that sewer architecture is in right now, but I don't find her as charismatic as the other undead merchant. She's still chill though. Going to the end of this sewage tunnel leads us to a familiar rat. And would you look at that, we are back in Firelink. This spell you can buy is not only funny, but very useful, and it requires barely any intelligence to use. I like that the game gives the player unique tools if they explore enough and are observant of the item descriptions. This item is essentially acting like the alluring skull, but it has a funny laugh and has many uses, which makes it more useful than the skull since they are very expensive. Now we can see the end result of the Arizona public education system. Making our way to the fog wall, we can now face one of the most infamous bosses in the Souls series, the Capra Demon. The Capra Demon itself isn't so bad, but the fact that you are fighting him alongside these two disgusting four-legged creatures in this tiny closet of an arena makes this a nightmare of a boss fight. But if you use the power of giggling, this fight actually becomes extremely manageable. Now I know the Capra Demon itself is a very bad boss, but being able to use this spell to make the fight a lot more manageable shines a light on the variety of tools at the player's disposal. There are countless ways to make this game easier or harder for yourself. The player agency puts so much focus on you and lets you decide how the game will be. Even when the game throws one of its worst bosses at me, I try to find a way to praise it. You'll have to let me know if this ramble sounds like the mental gymnastics of an insane person. The next Dark Souls episode will take us deeper into the labyrinth that is Lordran.